Jeremy on the beat, boy.
I mean, I'm just I'm just a low-key guy, I guess.
Yeah. All right, y'all. Welcome back. Welcome back. Like I said in the intro, man, I have a great episode for you today. I tell you, man, Commissioner Matlow, like I told you, we talked. It's just so crazy how all this came about. But the day I got Commissioner Jeremy Matlow on to talk about his campaign, Commissioner Matlow, if you want to introduce yourself to the folks.
Hey, yeah, thank you. And thanks for having me on. I'm Jeremy Matlow, City Commissioner. I was first elected in 2018, but I really I grew up in Tallahassee. I'm from here. I was raised by a single mother of 4 kids on the south side of the city. Decided to stay in Tallahassee, started my business, Gain Street Pies here, and that really got me into local government, going down to City Hall, speaking on issues that were affecting my neighborhood or small businesses, and really got there. And it felt like nobody was listening to everyday people. Nobody was listening to us at all. And, decided to run in 2018 and was fortunate enough to win and been serving the people ever since.
Now, Commissioner, you're from Tallahassee. What's some of your fondest memories of Tallahassee growing up?
Yeah, I mean, quite a few. I mean, just, my neighborhood, I mean, there was a little pond that we would go fishing in, go to the parks with my brothers, play basketball. We go to the library downtown, quite a bit, when computers were just coming of age, playing Oregon Trail and things like that. The winter parade downtown was always pretty cool.
What elementary school did you go to?
So I went to a couple. I went to Pineview. I was homeschooled for a year. And then I went to Sealy, and then I went to Oak Ridge for 4th and 5th grade.
Did you play in like the Orphan Ensemble or anything?
Nah.
Yeah, because you brought up the winter fair, the winter parade, and I remember I was at Buck Lake and we went up there and played at the winter fair, the Orphan Ensemble. I was going to ask you if y'all did the same thing.
Okay, yeah, no, I did some stuff in high school, a little more music like and stuff down there. But
what high school did you go to?
I went to Leon High School.
Yeah, all right. So I have Representative Sean Shaw coming on. I'm gonna interview him tomorrow. Actually, he played basketball at Leon. Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. I didn't even know that.
Yeah, that's something interesting I found out, man. That's something interesting. But so what is this? Something I was thinking about when I was doing the docket. What does a city commissioner do? What's the daily duties of a city commissioner?
Yeah, so I mean, overall, our job is to set the overall policy agenda, create the budget for the city of Tallahassee. So, I mean, that looks like anything the city government touches, we're ultimately setting the policy for. So that ranges from our airport, fire department, police department. We oversee the utilities, wastewater, parks and rec, streets planning, like a wide spectrum of things. So we actually meet every 2 weeks. We're on recess right now, but every 2 weeks we'll have a meeting. Those last from 4 to 8 hours. The public's invited to speak. They can speak for 3 minutes on any issue that they want. And I mean, it's just it's a grind. I mean, we're setting policy, very frequently. So the day-to-day can be different. On a commission meeting week, we might be meeting with constituents, hearing their ideas, or they're giving us feedback on what's coming up on our agenda. And then other weeks, maybe a little slower, but maybe we're out in the community, meeting with different groups. We're talking to different people, and we're also trying to craft our own proposals that we want to bring to the city commission.
So like city commission is like because I know with the governor that we have, he wants to make everything where the federal doesn't have any word on it. It's more state says on it. So the city commission is where it's like as local as much as local influence that you can get as far as politics, like voting for, because they handle your city, what your city does, your streets, all that, so that you really want to pay attention to that election, correct?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, so there's only 5 city commissioners. The budget for the city of Tallahassee is almost $1 billion. When we talk about, sidewalks needed in our neighborhoods or programs needed in community centers, like all of that stuff goes through the city. And in Florida, we have what's called home rule, which is our cities are supposed to take the lead on a lot of the issues, because we are the elected officials closest to the people. We're not the legislature that's only here for a couple weeks, throughout the year. We're here every day, and we're doing work every day. So, I mean, there's so much positive change that can come from the local level. If you're like me, you look at national politics and even state politics, and it just gets frustrating that you don't see any movement no matter who gets elected. It just seems like, it's an endless fight. But at the local level, I mean, 3 people, 3 votes can make really important decisions that can really affect people's lives. So that's what I like about it.
That's so interesting, man. What's so unique? We see everything that happens in the news in Tallahassee with the everything that goes on in the political scene. But what's so unique about Tallahassee's political scene that draws everybody to it?
Well, I don't know if it's unique, but it's it's exciting right now, I think, because what we've seen in Tallahassee over the last, decades, really, we talk about Florida being under one party control with the Republican Party, and kind of the same way our local government has been that way, even though everybody's registered as a Democrat. The same type of power players have been behind the scenes for a long time, right? These are people who have large sums of money in real estate, realtor companies. There's developers, and lately we're seeing even more special interest forces kind of take interest in the city. And we've always said Tallahassee is one of the most economically segregated cities in the country, and I think the reason for that is because of the way who's been in power for so long. They don't even recognize the needs of half of the city or more than half of the city, because they've been so focused on getting their own way or getting things that benefit them personally, and not really looking after the greater good. So over the last few years, more and more people have been stepping up to run for office. The FBI descended on Tallahassee, arrested some folks. Some people went to prison. So, I mean, we're a pretty corrupt government, if we're being honest. Like, corruption was kind of widespread throughout our city. So I think in response to that, in response to more progressive people stepping up to run for office, we're really seeing kind of a battle for the soul of our city. Are we going to continue to be this city that's dominated by these very rich, very powerful people for what they want? Or are we going to, open up our government to everyone, let everybody actually have our spending and our priorities match what the public wants?
What's the average age of the commissioners?
It's been going down. So it's a spread. I'm 37. Commissioner Jack Porter got elected 2 years ago. She's, I don't want to lie about her age, 28 or 29, I believe. And then, 40s, 50s, 60s. So I guess I'm probably more in the average, around 40 years old is probably the average.
Yeah, yes, sir. So you talked about the corruption that's went on in Tallahassee, and I think my mom, she had me watching politics. Like, I'm 31, so right when Gore and Bush and all those elections, I have a dictionary where we sat down and we wrote down what states would run Democrat, Republican throughout that election. So she got me into politics. But what makes you, as you seen the corruption that's going on? Because I remember Scott Maddox when I was in school, seeing him as the mayor, correct? He was,
yeah, that's right.
Yeah, seeing him as the mayor, then him now getting, as I'm a grown up, now he's in trouble. You see, like, dog, he was the mayor when I was in school. But seeing the corruption as a business owner, why is it important that you show the transparency between your business and your you set those separate, your business and your political side? Because that's one thing when I first found out about you when you first ran, I was like, hold on, he's showing his documents, where his money's coming from, how he's getting it. And that's what it's all about, being transparent. And how important is that to you in politics?
I mean, I think it's immensely important. I mean, money rules everything. Money pushes, people to do the bad things that they do, whether they're good people or not. We've kind of seen that play out. I think Scott Maddox is probably an example of that. So when we got on the city commission, you had to do some financial reporting, but you didn't have to put it all out there, exactly what you're getting paid from where and what sources. I'm a local business owner, so I had to list, the companies, the restaurants we own, how much money they bring in, the value of each company. But what you don't see on my financial reports is payments from the power players in town. You don't see that on my personal financial reports, and you won't see it on my campaign finance reports either, because that's been really the trick locally. Is, I mean, if you look at some people's campaign reports, it's $1,000 checks from the same company, but they have 15 different companies with the same name. So they can, rather than have the limit be 1,000, they can then get 15,000, right? And when we look at those financial reports and then we look at the city checkbook, we see those same people are getting collectively millions and millions of dollars in public contracts. And that's stuff that's maybe not illegal, but it's unethical and wrong. It just shows you how, when people put money on the front end, they get it out in the back end. And I think if we really follow that, we start to see people's motives. We start to see why decisions are being made the way they are.
I was watching the interview you did, debate you and your opponent did. Real quick, how important is it to know you're important in a battle when you're going into these elections?
To know your opponent, yeah. I mean, so it's important, right? I mean, you can't look at somebody by what they're saying in the moment. You can't look at somebody by what they put in a mailer. You can't look at somebody by a 30-second TV ad. It's what they have done over time. Judge somebody by their record. So I think my record speaks pretty clearly about who I am, what I've done over the last 4 years, and even before I was a city commissioner. And, knowing my opponent, he started saying the exact same things we said in 2018. He wanted to run on the exact same issues. He's putting together this progressive campaign, but then you look at his history and he gave $2,700 to Ron DeSantis, said he'd support him again. He gave money to Matt Gaetz. 90 days before the January 6th insurrection, he gave money to a group called Flip the House that was trying to get Republicans to take back control. So, we're looking at him. It's like, you're saying one thing, but with your money saying a completely different thing. You're pushing policies that are contradictory to what the people in Tallahassee want to see.
I was sitting there watching the debate and I was wondering, how do you keep your composure? Because, I'm like, you can tell that he wasn't telling the truth, and I think it was like somebody in the crowd might have said something too, and the moderator said, "Calm down, we're gonna keep it." And I'm like, the people know you're not telling. How do you keep your composure in that situation?
I mean, I'm just a low key guy, I guess.
Yes.
I've heard it before. People around me, they get real mad, and they're like, "I can't believe it! I can't believe it!" I get it. I'm as outraged as well, but nobody wants to see two guys like screaming at each other. So I just try to lay out the facts as what they are and let people make the decision from there.
Man, it was. I think it was one thing about it was like something on Adams Street, the buildings. And he was saying something again. He was saying something, and you were like, "Well, I didn't vote for that." So I don't know what you're talking about. I think that was the situation, but it was a couple things to pinpoint on that one, that he was saying some things that, and you could tell you just rebuttal. The rebuttal was quick and quick with it, man.
Yeah, he was just lying about our record, talking about affordable things he didn't really know anything about, that somebody maybe told him and he got confused and was just trying to throw him out there. But like I said then, go check my record. It's there. It's all in the public eye. I think you'll see that, he's wrong about his assertions. And frankly, I think he's supporting the people who are on the wrong side of those votes.
Yeah, I don't know how much I can get into it with you. I don't want to mess anything up for you, but me and my wife went out to Bannerman Road, and we were seeing some of we were riding, was like, we were seeing some of the signs I was like, man, it's crazy that a lot of his signs are in front of construct places that's being built right now. Like, if people don't read into that right there, I don't know how much more you can put it in your face.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. I mean, you look at the property owners or the developers that are putting up where those signs are going, it tells the whole story of, what they think they're going to get in return if he gets elected.
Yeah, could you go and put because my wife had this question, so shout out to my wife. This is a question from her. Could you put your signs up on their property like that, or would they take them down?
Yeah, they take them down. I mean, so they're up there by invitation of those companies, like Talcor. They have property all over. They're one of the big power players, and the Gosvini developments and Canopy and all those. So, I mean, they're actually asking those candidates to go put their signs on their properties.
Oh, so that's how it goes now. Oh,
yeah.
Oh man. Now, Commissioner Matlow, what's your thought about building up Tallahassee? Is that very important to you? Let the listeners know how important that is to you.
To build up Tallahassee?
Yeah, yes, sir.
Yeah, I mean, so my entire life, I grew up here. I was like, I got to get out of Tallahassee. This ain't where I want to be. I did a little traveling and I ended up coming back, and I really do love Tallahassee. It's big enough that things are going on, but still small enough where you can kind of know your neighbor. There's a good sense of community, which is what I really like. And when I started my business here, Tallahassee really is at that perfect opportunity where there is opportunity to create something new, to bring something new to the table, and help people rise together. What I see the battle is from big corporations and companies trying to come to town and be the focus of growth, versus us as communities growing from the ground up. I'm all about small, locally owned businesses, directing our economic development dollars to help new businesses grow in neighborhoods especially where we haven't seen a lot of economic development, and making sure our wealth is growing. We're keeping local wealth in local hands as we do it, because I think as we build up, we got to make sure we're building for the people who have been here, who already live here, and we're not just building up for people who want to come here and use our resources. So there's different perspectives of what growth means, but I think as long as we're community focused and we're trying to help the people who can succeed the most from our investments, then we're doing the right thing.
Yeah, because I know in one the same debate y'all were talking, and you were like, well, if you want to build up, then why not get people from that have companies here in Tallahassee? Why bring in all these people to do it? That doesn't make any kind of sense, and it kind of shut them down, right? I was like, this is an easy match, right?
Yeah. I mean, even the big, Amazon comes to town, they bring their own contractors. They're not hiring, really our local folks. So it's like, we got to do it. We got to be local first.
Yeah. What's that? So we'll talk about two things. That Amazon deal, was that voted on by the commission have any say so on that, them coming to town?
So the city didn't have a say so on them coming to town. The county approved their work permits, and then the economic development office, where we sit jointly with the county, voted to give them, I think it was $1 million incentive. But really, I mean, they were coming to town. They're coming to town anyway. Once Amazon decides they need to be somewhere, I think they're being driven by the market and where their customers are. So
yeah, and then two, the Amazon, and then also, man, it's slipping my mind now. But the Falls Chase, do you have any say so in the Falls Chase development?
So Falls Chase has a long history. We haven't done anything there since I've been on the city commission.
I got you, because I stay over here by it, and I know they're building up over there, houses and stuff. But the affordable housing in Tallahassee, what's your stance on that? How do you see that going?
I don't think it's going well, but I think we drastically need to get a handle on it. This is something I've been pretty vocal about. The city has a strategic plan that talks about affordable housing, but when we look at the metrics and what it's pushing, they fall very short of the need. Especially, affordable. Everybody needs affordable housing, but especially low-income housing is where we're seeing a drastic need. When the housing authority opens its waiting list, there's thousands and thousands and thousands of applicants, and a lot of those folks have to leave town if they can't find something that's affordable. I think we need to see a huge shift in developing. To me, I think there needs to be a public ownership, public push for it, because I don't think the private sector and what they're building is addressing the entire need. So I've been a huge advocate for, if we can take $20 million and put it into the stadium.
That's what I was going to talk about. I had just typed. That's what I was going. It slipped my mind, but that's what I was going to say.
All right. Well, we can put that money in and build, increase our housing stock. We saw what the housing authority had to do on Orange Avenue, because there's not enough investment into public housing already. But at the end of the day, we're losing housing. We have national people looking. They're buying up mobile home parks. They're jacking up the rents 3 times. They're running people out of town. So, I mean, even as we are creating new units, other units are becoming more expensive. So, I mean, we need to get a serious plan and look at across the board, because not just to buy housing, but to rent housing as well.
Yeah, because I was me and my wife was riding down Thomasville Road, and I kept seeing those Bolus, that company Bolus, And I remember I did an episode on my news episode when I talked about how they told the people that you got to pay more money. You're gonna have to pay more money down on your down payment, or we're gonna have to incur. I'm like, how you gonna just come and these people didn't waited and you're building their house and now you telling them like how you? But these are companies that's coming into the city and they're allowing them to come in and they're being like you said big pushers for these candidates. These candidates, man, it's sad. If you have any say so on that, real quick.
Yeah, I mean that's exactly. I mean, it's the same. So my perspective has always been we can't make developers do or build at a certain price point of what we want to do. That's their private business. Well, we shouldn't be giving them money, city tax dollars, county tax dollars, to do it. We saw that in the Canopy development. They're building an $80 million roadway that you and I are paying for to go through the old Walani plantation, which was 4,000 vacant acres. So they're going to develop all that area, but we're building the roadway for $80 million to go through it. You know, that's not right. If you're not going to build truly affordable housing, I don't think you should be leaning on the public to help, you know, build your road. So to me, it's like, let them do what they're going to do. Let's stop funding it and let's go do something for the people that's just separate and apart. I think that's the easiest way to go forward, because at the end of the day, they're always going to be profit driven. And as a government, we don't have to be profit driven. We just have to be service driven and make sure we're delivering what we need. But I think we have to step back from the frame that just helping every developer and every development is good and all growth is good if they're not delivering for the people that need help. If they wanted to come to the table and we're going to build houses that are drastically lower cost, I think we could negotiate different things. But frankly, when they're saying they're building affordable housing, they're talking about homes that cost $300,000. It's like, who's that affordable to? It's out of control.
And then too, like you're a business owner, so like you get I know you probably see it the same way. If you're going to do it affordable housing, then you have to match it up with the jobs that you have in the city as well. Like what's your idea about building jobs in Tallahassee, Leon County?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. It should be in tandem I mean, it's jobs, housing, and transportation, you know, all three of those, right? There's a big fight with Amazon because would bus service even go out there? And where are the houses around that facility that's
Stops
supposed
at the
to?
Walmart and Costco. That's where the last bus stop is on this side of
That's
town.
right.
You
Yeah.
can go out that
Yeah.
far.
Yes. Okay. So that Amazon center is technically, I believe, right outside the city limit. So our bus service, the county would supposed to be able to fund it. I think we're getting that resolved at least, but it goes back to that. You're saying 1,000 jobs are going to be out here, or 1,000 plus. Well, how are people going to get there, and where are they going to live? Because you don't see really affordable housing developments in that area. So, I mean, I think all three always have to work in tandem. And if the funny thing about attracting businesses and corporations, if their workforce has an affordable place to live, they're also more inclined to want to bring their businesses here, you know? So like all three of those, I think, work hand in hand.
What's your about saving FAMU? Do you have any point about saving that side on FAMU and saving the beauty of the area around surrounding FAMU and trying to beautify it?
Yeah, a lot. So I mean, this goes back to a local control and local push, because as we start seeing investments around FAMU, we saw the FAMU Way and some of that stuff, and then other blueprint investments in parks and infrastructure, and then the city's also putting $6.4 million into the Bond neighborhood to make streetscape improvements. I think it goes back to looking at the zoning, because I mean, there's this gentrification push and encroachment that comes as resources start flowing into an area, and then who are the property owners in the neighborhood? Who are we making sure we're putting property either into public ownership or into local ownership? Because that's my biggest worry, as when you start to build up areas, it's not a bait and switch, right? I mean, even if you look at Gain Street wasn't residential, but a lot of those older warehouses were under local ownership. There were like small little local businesses there. And as the people from out of town came and did those massive developments, like all of that kind of went by the wayside. So I think that's an important thing of investing, but investing with a plan for the future of where you're trying to go and who's going to be in ownership. If it's neighborhood investments, if you're keeping single family homes, if you're doing duplex or quadplexes, like what I would hate to see is like everything just get eliminated and then just out of town giant student housing developments go up, and then there's nothing local or culturally left.
Yeah, because I was thinking, man, with the 27 million that's going to FA to the stadium, how soon before the people start buying up that area right down the street from the stadium and turn it into housing and different things, and then lose what it was and what it is right now, man. Like, are y'all seeing a lot of like developers and different outside interests trying to buy property in that area?
Yeah, I think so. I don't have the numbers on all of it, but I mean, it's kind of everywhere over the last year. I mean, people are just swooping in, buying up property wherever they can. There's another road project where FAMU Way ends at Lake Bradford and Stuckey. That's going to cross over, go through the Providence neighborhood, and eventually go to the airport. So I mean, that's another one of those areas where here's an expensive road, nice road that's going to be built through a neighborhood, but is it going to make people snatch up all the property? There's veterans housing over there, there's migrant housing over there. It's like looking to the future of what the investment does, and I think the leadership of the Providence neighborhood has been good at drawing attention to that.
I can just see it now, just miles away from the stadium. Come stay here. I mean, from the airport, come stay here. It's a straight shot, man.
Yeah.
That's man. That's then I don't know now because you see the whole. I like to say you see the whole where the hotel is being built. That's where the stuff is going to start coming in at, because like they're building the hotels and stuff down by the stadiums now. So I didn't know about the airport road. I need to look that up about cutting through straight.
Yeah, that's an interesting one. I mean, when we talk about Florida State's influence, that was a road that originally was going to be Lake Bradford, and then it was going to redo Spring Hill Road all the way out to Capitol Circle. Areas where I think a reimagining of that road and bicycle lanes and sidewalks and all that thing would be helpful. But then FSU swooped in at the last minute and said, well, what if it cut through the neighborhood and came through our campus by Innovation Park, and then it connected to the airport? So it's just kind of like, everything, the people in power, again, they just have the ability to influence these projects and move them in different directions, and they cost a little bit more money. Then the people, on Spring Hill Road get less investment than they would have. So, I mean, all of that stuff to me is just wrong. It's like there's room to negotiate and talk about these things, but it just seems like it's like we got to get the roadway, we got to get the stadium, we got to get this, and just like at least break people off a little bit. Like why does it have to be everything? All of the good projects like Orange Avenue development, Tharp Street was a project that was supposed to be ranked ahead of all this, where there's still dirt paths for sidewalks. They keep getting pushed further and further out while these specialty projects keep jumping the line.
And then it goes back to know your opponent. Then they come in and say, well, your commissioners are not doing nothing because they want to bring more people in to okay these projects. That's
ludicrous.
That's so crazy. But you talked about the migrant cutting through the migrant housing, but like what's your idea about the homeless situation in Tallahassee? Because I know we had the City Walk situation a year ago. What's your idea on that?
Yeah, so I mean, I supported City Walk getting permits to open. I mean, here we have a private sector, religious sector that want to provide something that's desperately needed in Tallahassee at no cost to the taxpayers. Like, I don't see why we would push back on that. And it was relatively secluded from all the neighbors. It really seemed like, again, the push was the shopping center across the street, which is owned by the same developer families that dump a lot of money into campaigns. That was the real opposition to that. So, I mean, everything leads back to that. But talking to homeless service providers, we pushed for more federal funding during the pandemic because they gave us hard numbers. There's about 800 chronically homeless and homeless veterans in our city. And that number hasn't really increased that much or decreased too much. It's been pretty steady. So we kind of asked them what the hurdle is, and it's not emergency shelters because we have the Kearney Center. It's the actual housing, again, the housing that they transition from a shelter to permanent housing. That's the the hurdle that they haven't been able to overcome. And they gave us numbers that said if y'all invested $8 million up front and $8 million annually, we could put together a plan to rapidly rehouse all of the chronically homeless people in Tallahassee. So that means when somebody gets called about, maybe there's a homeless person on their property or sleeping in a park, rather than having the cops come and bringing them to Kearney Center and just get stuck in a cycle, they could actually move them into a home. Unfortunately, we couldn't get the funding through. We did get some additional funding to go towards those services, but not enough to address everybody. And again, I mean, to harp on this stadium, when you look at how much impact $20 million could make, we could have housed the homeless in Tallahassee. There'd be some more money we'd have to put into it down the line, but we could have had such a noticeable improvement, improve people's lives. And once you get them in homes, it's easier to get them stabilized. If it's a mental health issue, it's easier to get them on medication. If it's a job issue, it's easier to get a job once you have a home to go home to.
What was the thought? Because I was just thinking, what was the thought is if we put this money, invest this money in, that FSU will return and win a championship again, like they did with Jimbo, and bring back more money to the city. Was that the thought?
I mean, that's a very nice way of putting it.
Yeah.
To me, the boosters already have, this is $120 million project. They're already doing these luxury improvements. They could have just scaled the improvements down and made them a little less fancy and achieved the same thing. But to me, all this was, it was power. They had the power. We had the money, and they wanted it. And so they took it. I mean, it's as clear as day. I don't think there's no real argument for this money going to Florida State. There's just a handful of jobs that it even creates. It's not going to make the football team better. It's actually less seats in the stadium, so less people will come to town to go there. None of the financial metrics made sense. It was just
hold on. Not to cut you off. So, because I don't want to forget it. So, is less seating in there?
Yeah, I don't remember the specific numbers, but the remodel will have less seats than the previous ones, and I think they'll charge more for different seats because they're making like cabanas and fancy seats. So I think it makes sense for them, but it doesn't make sense as far as bringing people to Tallahassee.
That's what the whole talking point was, bringing more people. So if they go, more seats going to be in the stadium, but it's not going to be more seats.
Yeah. So, I mean, they just keep saying it's an economic driver. Well, yeah, it is. But so, I mean, I look at it this way. It's like saying this money, I own pizza restaurants, right? So if I wanted to bring more people, I'd open more restaurants that would bring more people. But they're making the argument, well, you're already a pizza restaurant. You're already bringing people. So let's just give you money. And it doesn't make, like, this money was intended to expand economic development. And instead they pick something and they're laying on the fact that it already is an economic driver to justify it. It's insane. I mean, that's why, like 70-80% of people in Tallahassee were against it because it doesn't make sense it doesn't pass the smell test, right?
Nah, it doesn't, man. We'll wrap it up, but I forgot to ask you, what got you into pizza? What made you do the pizza?
Man, I started making pizza in college. I was a restaurant manager of a place called the Italian Pie that used to be on Capitol Circle. It's where Peppers is now, and I managed that through college. In 2008, during the housing crisis, I ended up back in Tallahassee, just managing pizza restaurants, and I got into the clothing bit. I tried a bunch of different businesses, and basically, pizza is what I knew how to do well, and that's the one that took off.
Yeah, so I was telling my wife when I was reading the notes, I was like, man, it's crazy when you really think about what you've done with the pizza and how you saw a market where Pizza Hut was that people weren't liking Pizza Hut anymore, really. People weren't liking Domino's. I mean, Hungry Howie's been a staple around here in Tallahassee for a while, but we wanted a new taste, and then here comes Gain Street Pies with about the same size slice as Momo's has. Nice pizza, garlic, what you have, garlic knots, correct?
Garlic knots, yeah.
Garlic knots are good. And then you saw the same thing. You saw a niche, a void in politics in Tallahassee that needed to be filled. It's almost like you're a political entrepreneur, man.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah, that's a nice way. That's a nice way of putting it. Yeah, I mean, we were down. I grew up going to like concerts and stuff on Gain Street. Yeah, I mean, we recognized there were no restaurants when we started down there. We were one of the first ones. There was one restaurant called Fat Sandwich down there in that whole block. And now it's all grown so much. But yeah, I mean, identify a need and fill it. I mean, that's what entrepreneurship's all about.
Yes, sir. Well, if you want to let the listeners know why it's so important to go to vote. Well, early voting's already started, but make sure they go at least by the 23rd.
Yeah, so like just that early voting's open. You can do it now. Vote by August 23rd. So people consider this the primary election, but my election will be decided on August 23rd. A lot of the local elections will be decided on August 23rd. The mayor's race could be decided. I mean, there's just such a golden opportunity for progress in Tallahassee this election cycle. There are young, energetic, progressive candidates in every city seat and every county seat. And if enough of them win, if the majority of people who are fighting for the people win, and that could happen on August 23rd, if enough people show up and vote, I mean, we can see a transformational shift in the way local government, operates. We've been fighting uphill, yelling at the wind, yelling at, the power structure, but they are so scared. They're dumping over $1 million attacking us and other candidates because they know how high the stakes are. They know that we can really see a change in local government. We can see investment in people, investment in neighborhood infrastructure where it's needed, and cut the developer money train off at the spigot. It could stop. So if you're a voter, if you're registered to vote, tell your friends, text your friends and make sure they vote. These elections get decided by just a few hundred votes. So we need everybody's help and would appreciate your support.
Yes, sir. If you want to let the people know about a little some candidates that you might be able to promote, that you would want to just advertise for.
Yeah, sure. So, and another city commission seat, Adner Marcelin is a real cool guy. He's worked with Attorney Ben Crump for quite a few years, and he's really out fighting for the people. Josh Johnston, he's running for a county at large seat. Marie Radigan, she's running for a state seat, HD8. I like her a lot. Anybody but Mayor John Daly in the mayor's seat, I think.
Man, Commissioner, see, that's why, man, appreciate y'all listening to Smoke Screen Podcast. That's why I like you, Jeremy, man. Because I was gonna ask you after we got off about Mayor Daly if you wanted to just touch on some of that, because I did digging in the ashtray and I talked about the Florida Power situation, and they were up here in Tallahassee meeting with him, and now that I saw an article where it was saying that I guess he said that if what I don't know if he said or somebody told him if FSU didn't get that, if we don't do this money, then like FSU would leave Tallahassee. Like, she's not gonna leave. Where are they going? They're gonna move all these students somewhere to a different city.
Yeah. So I mean, John Daly is the champion of pushing special interest policies and then trying to justify it. And he said first he tried to he took $23,000 from Seminole boosters the week that he voted to give them $20 million. And we criticized that, and he called that voter suppression. That was his spin. And now in this campaign, he's saying if he didn't give them the money, they take home games, out of Tallahassee. It's just all made up. And then the Florida Power and Light, I mean, that's just really concerning. This is we own our public utility in Tallahassee, so we really can control the outcome, the price of your bills and so forth. Florida Power and Light has been playing in elections all across the state with money. They've been recruiting ghost candidates with fake names. People have gone to jail for their activities. And here they are meeting with Mayor John Daly in his office. Nobody's really telling us what they met about. And they're texting the city manager asking about city commission district. So it seems pretty apparent that Florida Power and Light has an interest in Tallahassee. They have our interest in our elections, and the mayor's not really being forthcoming of what that interest may be.
They see all the constructions and stuff being built. They see an open alley to come on in.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, so they had a scandal in Jacksonville where they tried to purchase their utility, and that got blown up and became a black eye for them. So, I mean, I think it's just part of their strategy, one city at a time, try to purchase their utility.
Yeah, I talked about on the episode how they have like a bar in Tallahassee that nobody knew about. They found out about. They don't even have a liquor license, but they serve liquor there, and it's just the rub elbows with different people. I'm like, how in the world? You can't see in, but they can look out. What kind of places
It's right across the street from my office. I can see it from my office window. They're building.
Is this where Tony Soprano and them may be chilling? What is going on here, man? So
I've never been invited. I don't know.
That might be good. You haven't been invited. Yeah. We don't want to go in there, man. We don't want to go in there. But if you can let the people know where they can do a little bit more research about the ballot, if you know any or the ballot.
Yeah, sure. So I mean, first stop is my website, jeremymatlow.com. And then if you go on leonvotes.gov, it lists, you can get the sample ballot, you know, all of the candidates. Tallahassee Democrat actually has a pretty good guide out where people have given different answers. There's a group called the Alliance of Tallahassee Neighborhoods that kind of did in-depth interviews that you can read. But I mean, I would just really research people's positions, but also research who's funding them or who they're funding. To me, that tells you everything you need to know usually about how someone's going to serve, you know, their community. If all of their money is $1,000 checks from companies, they're probably not going to be a good commissioner. If most of their money is small dollar donations from individual real people, I tend to side with them.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I appreciate you one more time, Commissioner Matlow. Appreciate you for coming on and agreeing to come on to do this. This is a great episode, man. I know it's going to be very informative to the listeners to get ready to prepare to boot up, man, and get out there and vote.
Yeah, awesome. So, I mean, we'll be out there knocking doors, so maybe I'll see y'all soon.
Man, I can't wait, man. I caught the video on my ring, so I'm going to try to work that into some. It was so... Commissioner Matlow, man, I just released the episode with Tarif Knockout on YouTube today, and I released the episode tomorrow on the podcast version. But that was just so crazy, man. How that day went down, man. It's just so crazy, Commissioner.
Yeah, I mean, you never know who you're going to meet out
there.
Yeah,
you never know. You never know. You never know. But I appreciate y'all for listening to another episode of Smoke Screen Podcast, man. Y'all have a good week. Make sure you're going out there and voting, man. Doing what you're supposed to do, man. Do the right thing and do it the right way, man. Appreciate y'all for listening, man. Y'all have a good rest of your week.
Jeremy on the beat, boy.
I mean, I'm just a low-key guy, I guess.